Continuing with the story of Prophet Yusuf. So the brothers go back to Egypt for the third time, and they go and they meet Minister Yusuf because they want to get some more food, and because their father sent them as well to go look for Yusuf and look for his brother Benjamin and try to find out what's going on. So they went to Yusuf and they began by complaining how poor they were. They said, "We're so poor, our family's suffering, we don't have much money, we can't even pay for food. Can you please give us sadaqah? Can you please give us some food for free? Like, we're in a really bad situation." So they humiliated themselves in front of an Egyptian minister. And Yusuf, they didn't know it's Yusuf. Yusuf started feeling bad for them. I mean, how could the children of Allah's messenger humiliate themselves like this by begging in front of an Egyptian minister? It's not befitting. It's dishonorable to do something like this. So Yusuf decided, this is it. I can't take this any longer. These arrogant brothers who thought they were the best, and they thought they were so amazing, and they thought they were better than Yusuf, and they thought they were better than Benjamin, now they're humiliating themselves in front of foreigners, Egyptians. So it's finally time to continue with the rest of the plan. So Yusuf told them, he says, "Do you guys remember when you threw Yusuf into the well so many years ago?" And the brothers, they were shocked. Like, they couldn't believe it, that nobody could have known this secret besides them. Even Benjamin didn't know. So nobody could have possibly told him, an Egyptian minister, that this had happened. So until now, they were not able to recognize that this is Yusuf, because he looks so different, dressed many years, it's been such a long time. But Yusuf recognized them. And this is exactly what Allah told Yusuf would happen so many years ago when he was in the well. If you go back to the story, when he was in the well, Allah said that one day you're going to tell your brothers what they did to you, and you're going to recognize them, but they won't recognize you. Now, back then, Yusuf had no idea what that meant. It just meant that one day he's going to get, we won't kind of call it revenge, he's going to get his justice. That they're going to be in trouble and they're going to be reminded what they did, and they're going to feel sorry for what they did. And today was that day. And it happened exactly the way Allah had told Yusuf when he was in the well. So they started looking very closely at him. So can you imagine? They're like looking at this Egyptian minister. They're like, who is this guy? There's no way he could possibly know this. And then they started to realize, when they started focusing and thinking about it, they said, this could only be Yusuf standing right in front of them. It can't be anybody else. There's absolutely no other possible explanation. So they said, "Are you really Yusuf?" And Yusuf said, "Yes, I am. And this is my brother Benjamin over here." He called his brother out. And he says, "Look where we are. We're here, me and my brother, we're in charge of Egypt. We're in charge of one of the most powerful civilizations in this land." And he didn't say because we're special. He said, Allah has blessed us. He said, Allah rewards the ones who remember Him and the ones who are patient. So Yusuf is attributing all of this success to Allah's blessing. And also, why does he get Allah's blessing? Because he reacted in the way that Allah told him to. You're supposed to remember Allah, never forget, and you're supposed to always be patient in the tribulations, the difficulties, the tests that Allah gives you. So the brothers still, they're just shocked. They can't believe that Yusuf, their brother, whom they hated and they thought was worse off than them, is now the minister of Egypt. They thought he must have died. They thought he was some slave, maybe somewhere. They don't really care because they wanted to get rid of him. And now they realized how wrong they had been. And so something snapped in them, and they realized that, you know what? We were wrong this whole time. And they admitted and they acknowledged and they said, yes, you're right. Allah has definitely blessed you more than us. And they admitted, we were wrong. And they said, please forgive us. We're really sorry for what we did. And Yusuf recognized and he saw the sincerity in them. And after all these bad things that they had done to Yusuf, what does Yusuf say? What would most people say? Most people would say, you think one sorry is going to make up for everything that you did. I mean, they tried to kill him. They almost killed him. But he felt the genuineness in what they were saying, and he's somebody who forgives easily. So Yusuf said, I forgive you, and may Allah forgive you. So this is the height of forgiveness. Not only do I forgive you on a personal level, but I'm even going to ask Allah to forgive you. And so Yusuf did not hold any grudge against them. And now that it's not a secret what his identity is, who he is, Yusuf now wants to go meet his family. So he heard that his father became sick, not really sick, but his father's eyesight was becoming dim and it became weak because he was crying so much. So he told the brothers, he says, hey, I want you to take this shirt of mine. He gives them another shirt. We've seen the shirt many times. We've seen the shirt from the well. They took it and showed the fake blood on the shirt. We've seen the shirt being torn in the house of the minister. And now we see the shirt again being given. There's a symbolism in there. He gave a shirt and he said, now take this shirt of mine and place it on my father's face. And he will realize that it's me. It's truly me. And he's going to get his full eyesight back. It's going to be restored. And then I want you to bring the entire family and you're going to move to Egypt. Because I'm the minister. Right now, where were they living? They were living in a small little land. Because you're going to migrate to Egypt, and I'm a powerful minister, and we're going to live here, especially for a while. Because this is a great city, great place, and I have a position of authority, so we're going to be just fine. So they now go back and tell their father what happened. But before they even arrive, the caravan of people, along with all the brothers, they're on their way back to Canaan. And Yaqub received a hint from Allah. Allah gave him like a little hint that, you know what? All your troubles, all these years that you've been going through, it's about to end. So he got excited. And he started saying, I can smell the fragrance of Yusuf coming back to me. And so the people around him, they were there and they started making fun of him. And they're like, man, you're still living in your delusion. Your son is gone. It's been so many years. Move on with your life, man. No, stop this. But Yaqub, he's a prophet. He's not just like some senile old man. He's a prophet and he's receiving revelation. So he believed in Allah's promise and he believed in the sign that he received. So finally the caravan arrives. And imagine Yaqub has to deal with all of this. And on top of that, he has to deal with the criticism from his people. It's like people are already going through something, and then people, they talk too much and they gossip too much, and then they criticize you to your face, and it just pushes you down even more. Yaqub has to be patient through all of this as well. And so the caravan finally arrives, and Yusuf's shirt was placed over Yaqub's face, and his sight immediately returned back to normal, because he realized it's like sometimes it's the power of your mind. It's just, of course, this is a miracle from Allah, but it's also the power of your mind can actually heal even an illness that you have. And sadness, extreme sadness, can actually cause you physical impairments. So his sight returned back to normal. And he got so happy, and all the people who had been making fun of him, including his own children, they used to make fun of him. He says, didn't I tell you that I knew a secret from Allah about Yusuf? See, Yaqub, he knew that Yusuf would come back to him, but he had no idea. 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, he has no idea how long. So the brothers, they finally understood what their father had been saying all these years, that he knew this was going to happen eventually, he just didn't know how long it would be. And that's how Allah tests us too. We go through some test, we don't know if it's going to be a day or a month or a year, but that's part of the difficulty of being patient, but that's what we're supposed to do. And so the brothers regretted, and they admitted their mistake to Yusuf. Now they go and they tell their father the truth of what they had done. And they go and they tell their father and they ask him for forgiveness. They say, Father, ask Allah to forgive us too. We've done so many bad things. And Yaqub is exactly like Yusuf. He's a messenger of Allah for a reason. And all this pain and all this sadness that his own children had caused him, Yaqub forgave them. And what did he say? He said, okay, I will ask Allah to forgive you. And he forgave them too. And so now Yaqub sets out with his whole family and they all moved to Egypt. And so when they came to Egypt, they finally met Yusuf. It was an amazing, extremely happy day. And so Yusuf invited him in He invited his parents, mother and father, whether it was his stepmother or his real mother, we don't really know. But he invited his parents to come and sit near the throne where he is, and he was obviously sitting on his own throne. And everybody bowed down in front of Yusuf out of respect. This is a bowing of respect, it's not a bowing of worship. This was something that was allowed back then. And then Yusuf said, "This is exactly what the dream that I had when I was young meant." Because he saw 11 stars, he saw the sun and the moon, and they were all bowing down in front of me. And the 11 stars were the 11 brothers. And the sun and the moon were the mother and the father. And he says, it meant that Allah is going to elevate me to a status in this world where there's going to be such a level of respect that I have that even my family is going to show respect to me like this, let alone the entire civilization of Egypt. So what did Yusuf do? Yusuf was not arrogant. He was not like, look at me, this is awesome, I earned all this. Yusuf always thanked Allah. So he thanked Allah again for everything. And Yusuf realized that all of the difficulties that he went through in his entire life, we have the life story of all the difficulties Yusuf goes through. All these difficulties were temporary tests. And so now he's in such a high position. He goes from up, down, up, down, up, down, and now he's in a up. And basically it shows us that in life, this is the way things happen. And now he holds a position of authority in Egypt, but still Yusuf remains a humble, dedicated servant of Allah throughout his entire life. And that is the end of the story of Prophet Yusuf. So, before we move on, are there any questions about Prophet Yusuf's story that we covered? Yes. When? When he invited him to Egypt? Yeah, so the conversation between father and son, they probably had a long conversation. They caught up on so many years of being away. And he said, you know what, we're so happy that you moved here. Let's all thank Allah for the blessings that we have. We don't know the details of the conversation, but that's probably what their conversation was. And then they lived together. Happily ever after. Yes, any other questions? Okay, let's continue then with the story of Prophet Shu'ayb. So Prophet Shu'ayb, he lived in a place called Madian, or in English it's called Midian. And these people of Madian, they were Arabs, and they were traders, they were business people. And they used to worship idols, like many other people that we've seen. But they did something else. They used to cheat people. So one thing that's unique to them, many of the prophets that were sent, they were sent to idol worshiping people, most of them. Told them to stop worshiping idols. But these people had some other moral, problem, some bad thing that they were doing. Prophet Lut were engaging in men, were marrying men and having relationships and all that stuff. They were also stealing and they were cutting off caravans and they did other things. The people of Madian, they used to cheat people by tricking them and deceiving them. So what they would do is whenever they would sell something, they would change their scales in order to trick people, like hacking a scale basically. So what used to happen is in the past, even about 50 years ago, in fact, even when I lived in India, they still use these scales, just like 20 years ago. It's like a scale, and what happens is you put a weight on one side, and you put some grain or a bag of rice or flour, whatever you're buying, you put on the other side, and you put a 1 kilogram weight on this side, you put the bag on the other side, and if it balances, that's 1 kilogram of whatever you're buying, barley or wheat or whatever it may be. But what they did, they figured out a way to hack the scale. And it's not that difficult. One way you could do is you could trick people by putting actually a weight underneath the other side to make it seem like it's heavier. Or you could just make the pans look like they're kind of the same thickness. One is made of a thicker metal and one is made of like a thinner metal. There's so many different ways to hack the scale. So we don't know how they did it, but they somehow hacked the scales. And most people, even if you go to a grocery store today, sometimes when you buy fruit, there's like a little pan. You put your fruit in there to weigh it, and it'll tell you how much it weighs. Imagine you could hack that scale so that when you put it in there, it makes it seem like it's much heavier. Or when you go to the register, you put it on, you're buying an apple, and then you weigh that apple or the banana, and all of a sudden it's, let's say it's half a pound, but it shows 1 pound. You have to pay 1 pound, but you're getting half a pound. That's exactly what they used to do. The people of Madian, this is what they would do. So they'd sell like 9 pounds of grain, but their scale would say, that's 10 pounds of grain. You owe us this much money. And so this is one way in which they would steal from people. They would cheat people. And then another way is they would also sometimes rob entire caravans. Anyone passes by their land, they'd go out, send a raiding party. They don't have any police around them, and they would go and they would steal their merchandise. So this is the problem that these people had. So Allah chose one of those people. His name was Shu'ayb. And he's going to be the messenger to them to tell them to stop doing all these things. So Allah chose him just like the other prophets. And he went to his people and he said, my people, first, you should only worship Allah. Don't worship anyone else besides him. And he said, then don't cheat people. You should give them exactly what they pay for. And you should not change the scales. And he explained why. He said, remember, one, it's just wrong. Number two, Allah told you not to do it. But then he gives an additional explanation. He said, whatever money that you make honestly is going to be much better than the money that's made from cheating people. See, it's not going to bring you true happiness. The blessing in that money, that you make a little bit more money, but you were doing something wrong, you may think you have more money, but actually you're going to find that somehow you're not going to enjoy that money the way that you're supposed to be enjoying it. So he's trying to convince people in so many different ways to stop doing this. And then he continued and he said, and remember, if you keep doing this, Allah's going to punish you for that on the Day of Judgment. So he said, don't do that. And also, don't rob people when they're traveling between cities, because that's the worst thing. It's worse than robbing, it's worse than stealing from someone who's inside of a city. Because at least there's police around and you have to kind of do it secretly. When you rob someone in the middle of nowhere, it makes it dangerous for everyone. Nobody wants to travel. Nobody wants to go from one city to another city because they're like, you know what? It's not safe. There's bandits going to come and rob from me. Same thing with pirates in the sea, and they're stealing from people. It causes a panic and a scare for all the people in different societies because they don't feel safe. So Shu'ayb told them, stop doing that. And then another way, so he tries every single, it's not just one method of trying to convince people. He's trying every way to convince them to stop doing it. So then he reminded them, he said, look at all the blessings Allah has given you. Allah made you a rich community. You guys have a lot of wealth and you have a lot of people. And if Allah wanted, he could have stopped you from having children. And if you don't have children, some people, there's a high level infertility in their society. You wouldn't have children, you wouldn't have people to work, you wouldn't even be a city. You'd be like a tiny little village and you'd start dying out. Like today, people are afraid. Many civilizations like Japan, Scandinavia, Norway and Sweden and Finland, they have some of the lowest birth rates in the entire world. And that's why they're trying to somehow encourage their population to get married and reproduce and have children. Otherwise, their entire native population is going to die out. Because people don't want to get married and they don't want to have children for reasons which is another lecture for another day. So this is what's happening. So Prophet Shu'ayb is explaining to them. He's saying, you know what? Allah could have done that to you. But look, He's given you these blessings. How do you thank Allah for your blessings? By fulfilling the responsibilities of those blessings. By not cheating and by being thankful for what you have. So how did the people respond? These are the people of Madian. How did they respond? So the leaders, just like the leaders we've seen of Prophet Hud and Prophet Saleh and so many other prophets, they said, Shu'ayb, you want us to give up what our parents worshipped and our grandparents worshipped? You want us to just stop that? You want to take away our freedom to do whatever we want with our property? This is the whole talk about freedom. We hear this a lot in society. Well, I'm free to do whatever I want and I have the freedom to do that. So they use a similar argument. It's our money. It's our goods. We should be free to do whatever we want. We should be free to transact however we want. And then they insulted him. Just like Prophet Lut's people insulted him. They say, you pretend like you're the only wise person here. Like we're doing something wrong. You're the only smart person telling us that we shouldn't be doing this thing. And then they continued. And they said, we're going to kick you and your followers out of this town unless you come back and you return back to our religion. You come back to worship idols. You come back and you stop telling us to do these bad things. We're not going to allow you to keep telling us to do the right thing. Not only will we not do it, we're not going to even allow you to continue telling us to do it. You don't have the freedom to even speak, but we have the freedom to do whatever we want with our thing. It's a hypocrisy. So Shu'ayb responds, and he says, you want to force us, because he had other Muslims who believed in him. You're going to force us to return back to that religion, even if we hate it? Like, what about freedom of choice when it comes to religion for us too? He said, we can't do that. We can't go back to worshiping idols, the people who had worshipped idols before and then they stopped. We can't do that because we'd be telling a lie against Allah. Allah saved us from that false religion. And we cannot go back to that religion unless Allah tells us and wants us to. And of course, Allah is never going to tell them to worship idols. So then they went and they made dua to Allah and they said, oh Allah, you decide which religion is right and which religion is wrong. You're the best judge. Allah gets to decide what is the correct religion. This is not a popularity contest. This is not about, well, you like this in this religion and you don't like that in this religion. Who makes the final decision of what's true and false? It's Allah. Some things are right and some things are wrong. So the leaders of Madian, they went back and forth with Prophet Shu'ayb. So the leaders of Madian, they came and they told the people, they said, listen, we're warning you, all you people, all you Muslims. If you follow Shu'ayb, you're going to lose a lot of money. You could make so much money, you're going to become poor if you follow this guy. So Shu'ayb, he doesn't just sit there. He responds. And he said, listen, my people, if you don't like me and you don't want to follow what I'm saying, then I'm warning you, you need to be very careful. Because you've heard about the people of Nuh and what happened to them. And you've heard about the people of Hud. And you've heard about the people of Salih. So they've heard all these stories and how these societies were destroyed. So he says, remember also the people of Lut. You've heard about them too. All these 4 communities, you know their story. And you know how it ended. And even when it comes to Prophet Lut, their destroyed city is actually not far away from you. They lived not far away from where the people of Prophet Lut used to live. And there were some ruins there that they knew about and they could see. So he's like, that's next door. And you guys should learn the lesson, and you should change your ways, and you should ask Allah to forgive you. So these people, they responded. So we really don't even understand what you're saying. It's such a ridiculous argument. He speaks the same language. He explained things very clearly. They had no other excuse to make. So what did they say? I don't really understand you. You're not making any sense to me. And then finally, they said, you know what? You're weak. You don't have any powerful. You're not very powerful, but you have a family that's protecting you. If you didn't have, so Shu'ayb had a family, and the family protected him. He said, if you didn't have this powerful family protecting you, we would have already stoned you to death. Like we would have already removed you. But you know what? The only reason why we're not messing with you is because your family is very well connected. But you know what? You're a disgrace in our eyes. You're nothing in our eyes. And so they're insulting him and putting him down. Shu'ayb is not stopping. And so Shu'ayb responds, and he says, listen, my people. And he's speaking lovingly. I mean, while they're insulting him, he's still responding respectfully to them. Saying, listen, my people, is my family more important than Allah in your eyes? Like this is what you care about? My family is the one you think is protecting me? What Allah says is more important than that. But Shu'ayb knew that these people, their hearts are closed. Their minds are closed. So finally, after arguing back and forth, he said, you know what, my people, you can do whatever you want, and so will I. Soon you're going to see the punishment of Allah, and you're going to be disgraced. So you know what? Let's wait, and let's see what happens, and let's see which one of us is telling the truth. It's all he could say. And then, finally, after a while, just like the other prophets, Allah told Shu'ayb, and he told the believers to leave this town. And they left. And Allah sent a powerful blast, like some kind of like an earthquake or something like that. The people of Madian were destroyed. Just like the people of Thamud, the entire town was destroyed, as if nobody lived there. There's no remnants of the people of Shu'ayb at all. People of Madian are gone, wiped out. And so when Shu'ayb left, he looked back at the city that was completely destroyed. This was the city he grew up in. So you look back in sadness, and sometimes you talk just to yourself. And he said, my people, I delivered the message of Allah to you, and I just wanted good for you. But you know what? Why should I be so sad over people like you who refuse to believe? So he's kind of talking to himself. And he's like, yes, I'm sad that this whole city was destroyed and you're all gone. But why should I be so sad? Because you guys chose this, and there's nothing I could do about it. So he's just kind of like talking to himself. And this ends the story of Prophet Shu'ayb. Any questions about Prophet Shu'ayb or the people of Madian? Yes. Alaikum assalam.
Cheating people, how can we take that on today's scale and not actual physical scale, explaining relationships with our day-to-day interactions? Like, how can we apply that to our day-to-day, and then also idols?
Yeah, so I mean, all these stories can be applied to today in several different ways. There's too many to list, but let's just take one example of, this hacking the scales that they would do, right? So people do things like that. They make scams. People who send you these scam messages, and they say, or they do, cryptocurrency scams, or they go and they buy some merchandise, and when they're selling it, they lie about what their cost was, and they say, well, I bought it for this, and I'm giving it to you at my own cost, and they're completely lying. This is very common in business today. So people are doing the same thing. These people were doing it in one way. People do it in an electronic way. Sometimes they modify their paperwork. Sometimes they'll actually change the currency of a transaction, whatever it may be. So this applies in so many different ways. So that's one way in which we look and say, how can we apply what not to do in our own circumstance? Then when we talk about what to do, we look at Shu'ayb's response to the people, and not only did he didn't just simply say, guys, this is haram, you can't do it. This is a prophet. He said, don't do it. He explained there's going to be no barakah in your wealth, there's going to be no blessing in your wealth. He explains that Allah is going to hold you on the day of judgment accountable. He explains like so many point after point after point. So he doesn't just address things from one angle, he addressed it from several angles. So when we find someone who's engaging in this kind of behavior, we should be wise like Prophet Shu'ayb, not just say one thing, like, oh, astaghfirullah, that's haram. Some people just focus on everything is just astaghfirullah, that's haram. That's not how the Prophet spoke. So we learn the wisdom of how you're making da'wah and addressing people when they're doing something wrong as well. And also when it comes to patience, being insulted and being mocked, and people are going to come and respond to you. We can learn these lessons as well. So there's so many lessons. These are just 3 examples. Yeah. Any other questions about Prophet Shu'ayb? Okay. Let's see. Can do. No, I think we'll stop there. Prophet Ayub will be next week. Although his story is super short, still can't be done in 2 minutes. And even though I'm pretty fast, I still can't do it in 2 minutes. So, I wish. It'll probably be 5. So I think we might have to change the time of the class again next week to be after Maghrib. So what that means is, should we?
Yeah.
We should?
Yeah.
Okay, so should we do 7:45? Starting next week? Is that good?
Yeah.
After Maghrib would be 7:45,
Yeah.
or like 7:50. So Isha, Abdullah, when is Isha? When is Isha next week? Next week. 8:50. And it's going to come down a little bit. So let's just do this. Let's do 8 o'clock again, inshallah. Is that good? Next week?
Yeah.
8 o'clock? Inshallah. So next week, 8 o'clock. We'll leave it at that. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.
Any cookies today?
I don't know if there's cookies. It hasn't been cookies for a long time, Jabir.